What's up, guys and girls? It's your boy the Hunter Fisher. Welcome back to another epi banger video. And today, guys and girls, I figured I'd do a quick little video for Tackle Tuesday and Tackle Thursday where I'm going to talk about my BFS Rod and Reel arsenal. I know a ton of you guys have been hearing almost BFS on my channel for a long time, a lot of it, and I know that some of you may not exactly want to hear more BFS content and things like that, but I also want to talk about BFS because it's kind of what I enjoy. I enjoy using bait casters to do everything that a spinning rod can do. I just enjoy bait casters more than spinning gear, just generally because it's lighter, it's more fun, I'm more accurate, things like that. Plus, honestly, if you're a gearhead in any passion of your own, you kind of can understand me. Say if you're a gearhead of cars, automobiles, you like doing stuff like that, you may like an unconventional car that many others do not like it. You might like pimping out your, what is it, like Volkswagen Golf or whatever it is. I don't really know the brands anymore, just because I've never been into cars like other people are. But essentially what BFS to me is, it's tricking out a car in the same way that you're tricking, well, it's tricking out a reel the same way you trick out a car. And there's certain reels where you can modify, do all tons of crazy stuff with them, and BFS kind of enables you to modify things a little bit more how you like. So it's like essentially investing in a Lamborghini or investing in Ferrari or anything like that, and essentially modding it until it's at the performance level that you want. So that's why I've been talking about BFS so much lately, because I love it. It's a lot of fun for me, and also it's just a lot of fun in general. It's a hobbyist technique is what I would call it. So essentially I have a few reels. I don't have as many reels as I have rods, and the goal is that by the end of the year to have a couple more reels in my arsenal, because I do need more reels. I actually intend to fully like start building my own BFS like loadouts and everything like that, because I want to get more specific with what I do for BFS, like using certain rods for certain reels and certain reels for certain techniques, all that stuff. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different BFS rods. Well, some of them aren't technically identified as BFS, but they're very light casting rods. And I've casted extremely light with some of these rods. Before I even go into it, I've sold and gotten rid of a few of my reels. I've sold and gotten rid of a few of my rods. I've broken rods. I've actually got 2 broken rods here right now that I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna give you guys essentially what did I have before but I got rid of. So I've gotten rid of a Kastking Zephyr. I just didn't need it. I didn't like it that much. It was too thick. I mean, it's a great reel if you're starting out, but the Kastking Zephyr is just not, it doesn't really have a place in my arsenal, in my opinion. Now that I've gotten more into BFS, I want something that's more fine-tuned than the Zephyr. The Zephyr is just essentially the first reel that everyone gets into, and that's the way I feel about that. But I also had the Corrado BFS. So the Corrado BFS has been a very popular BFS reel because it was one of the first in the American industry besides the Zephyr. So the Corrado BFS is a good reel. I think it's not bad. If you're doing bass finesse, it's awesome. If you're throwing Ned rigs and you're throwing jerk baits all the time, then by all means get that reel. I personally did not like that reel. After 6 months of having it, I did not like it. I actually decided I didn't like it when I started using the Dark Wolf Ultra, because we're gonna start out with reels because rods are a lot more to talk about. But once I got this reel, the Dark Wolf Ultra, it's kind of what I would describe as a Corrado BFS clone. It is the same style of braking as Shimano's FTB braking system. It has these nice knobs, but when I got this reel, made me realize that the Corrado BFS wasn't all that great, in my opinion. The braking system, I felt like there was a lot to be desired with the Corrado BFS, and I know that's gonna be the same with the SLX and the Scorpion BFS, so I'm just not, honestly not a big Shimano guy when it comes to BFS reels, because I believe that it's just, you need a little bit more fine tuning. I'm sure the Aldebaran is great, but I think if I were to get any Shimano BFS reels, it's going to be the Aldebaran BFS or the CQ BFS, but those are expensive. So I think I want to knock out the Daiwa expensive reels before I knock out Shimano expensive reels. But this reel really made me realize that there was more to be desired, especially with Shimano's FTB system. I did not like it at that time. It's hard to pin down why I don't like it. A lot of people are saying, oh, I'm not a fan of airy braking, or that I'm just not using my thumb enough. But the fact of the matter is, braking systems are there to make the angler more efficient. So say things like BFS exists because efficiency. BFS is only in this industry to make your casting more accurate and more efficient. So say if you're casting a light lure repeatedly on a spinning rod, you're going to win knot. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you were somebody who uses only spinning gear and you are saying, oh, I never wind knot, you're lying. You're straight up lying. Unfortunately, that is the matter of the fact, because there's line memory, there's braid. There is no possible way that someone can go the entire day without wind knotting on a spinning gear. And that's because of things like line twist. Line twist exists in spinning gear more evidently than any other, and that kind of produces the issue with spinning gear. As I was saying, with Shimano's braking systems, the whole point of BFS is to be efficient. Shimano's BFS braking system, in my opinion, is not that efficient. I think the clones of the Shimano FTV system have actually done it better. I don't know why, I don't know how, I'm not that smart, but I will say that I do just prefer things like this clone braking system on the Dark Wolf Ultra. This Dark Wolf Ultra is under $100. It used to be the lightest spool in the BFS game, and I can tell you for sure it made a difference. So I don't know if maybe the FTV system clone on here works better with lighter spools. I do not know, but the problem with me in using Shimano BFS reels is the fact of the matter is I think that Shimano BFS has a lot of things you need to fix for you to get the full experience out of Shimano BFS reel. As much as I talked about modding reels, and that's what I love about it, I would much rather buy a reel, have all the things that needs to be done to it first done, and then I upgrade it to fine tune it. So for example, my Alphas Air, I'm going to install a different spool and put different bearings to cast lighter. It already casts very light, but I want to cast better. The point of what I'm saying is the Corrado BFS, to get the performance that you would expect out of the reel, you have to buy a $100 spool. So now you've spent $300 when you could have just gotten an Aldebaran BFS and you get that performance right out of the package. That's my issue with Shimano BFS. If anyone was really curious about that, that's just something I really wanted to do really quick and talk about, because I feel like not many people understood what I was talking about. Okay, so as we're gonna talk about the Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra, you guys have seen my review on this, you've seen what I think about it. I've got some 0.6 Go Valrivas all-purpose braid on there, PE if you're someone who's used to that. It's a 7.1:1 gear ratio reel. I have the left hand. I use left and right hand reels if you guys are curious. I'm ambidextrous, so I can literally use any way and load out as possible. Now this reel is on this rod, but it's not necessarily always on this rod, but this is the Dobyns Sierra Ultra Finesse Series 700 model. I'm hoping to try out the 701 here soon. I don't know when I'm going to do that, because your boy doesn't buy rods out the wahoo. That might be a lie, but those rods are budget and stuff like that. But this rod's a great little rod. It's about 200 bucks after shipping and everything. It's a great little rod if you're wanting to do bass finesse, panfish finesse, things like that. I even think that this could be a good crappie rod if you really want to try it, but obviously I have a preference for crappie fishing if you wanted to ask me, because I've been talking about it on the channel for the past week and a half. You guys would know. But this rod is great. I think the only negative things I got to say about this rod is the extra fast action and the non-full grip. I am a sucker for full grip. I do not like split grip. Sometimes I'll take a split grip if it makes it lighter, like this combo, but I feel that the split grip on here is thick and heavy. Not to say that this Dobyns rod isn't great, because it is absolutely amazing. It's an awesome rod. If you're interested in getting a rod like this, I highly recommend it. It's a great rod. But I do have my personal gripes with it, and I'm not going to say that those personal gripes are the end-all be-all negative sides of this rod. This is just my personal opinion. So do not take anything on this video as end-all be-all truth, because it's not. I can promise you that. This rod's great. If you're looking to get into BFS and you want this to be your first rod, get it. It's an awesome rod. Personally, I'm probably going to say I would rather have the 701C. The reason why is I prefer a more moderate bend. This rod is great and the extra action is great for freshwater, but in saltwater situations, that 701 makes a huge difference. The reason why is because that 701 has more bend to it. So say if I set the hook into a redfish, this rod is handled up to 24-inch redfish. I don't think that can handle a 30-inch redfish. I don't think it can handle a 35-inch redfish. There's not enough bend. The tip would break. I can almost promise you that. While the 701 is not necessarily any heavier in terms of like weight range and everything, the 701 has more bend to it. So therefore it has a little bit more beefier backbone. So essentially what I mean by that is it can still cast the same weights, but instead of an extra fast tip being ultra sensitive, and this is also a solid tip rod, to keep that in mind, so it's more likely and more prone to breakage with solid tip rods. I can actually talk on that later. But the point is because of the action of the 701, I would probably prefer having the 701 now, but I still absolutely love this rod. If you're someone who's drop shotting, This is a drop shot king setup. I would love to set a drop shot on this right now, go out to the lake and go slay some pressure bass. So if you're looking for drop shot, more sensitivity, this is the rod for you. But if you're looking for a 701 with a little more beef, but you still want to be able to cast light, then the 701 is more so for you versus the 700. I'm gonna put that over there to hopefully organize everything. I've got so much stuff in this room right now. If you guys can notice the mess behind me, I had actually just moved into this place and I haven't been more motivated enough to actually clean it all up, but it's gonna get up there soon. So we're gonna talk about all the reels first with the rods that they're on, and then I'm gonna talk about the rest of the rods. The reel I'm gonna talk about is going to be this one, because this is kind of the reel that I would say started a lot of the obsession for me. This is the Daiwa Alphas AIR Stream. Not Airstream, I keep doing that. Daiwa Alphas AIR TW, my bad. This is the 2020 model. I've got 0.6 Go J braid on there. I think I'm gonna change it out because just yesterday it was not performing up to par like I wanted it to, and that's okay. But I've actually done a few modifications to this. Well, not a few modifications. This has, I think, a drag clicker. I used to have a different handle on here, but this reel is actually going to get new bearings. This reel is also going to get a different spool because I want to fine tune it for lighter casting. I'm going to get even lighter PE to put on here, so I'm going to switch it to probably 0.2 or 0.3 pound, not 0.2 or 0.3 pound, 0.2 or 0.3 Go braid instead of 0.6, because 0.6 is a little heavy in my opinion. I think it doesn't cast as well, especially when you're going down to an 80th on this rod. And you guys already know what this rod is. I've been talking about it. I think I've talked about it enough on the channel to give you guys a whole movie about this rod. This is the Jenko Double Down BFS Rod. Now there's a story behind this rod. Last year at ICAST, I had this reel. I was actually crappie fishing the morning before I met the guys from Jenko Fishing, and I talked to them and I talked their ears off about BFS. I said, y'all need to hop on this train. It's going to be important a year from now. And lo and behold, it produced something that really mattered in the BFS industry. We've sold actually a ton of these so far. We didn't do anything. They've sold it. I didn't do crap. Point is I talked these guys' ears off about how I think BFS is the next big thing, at least in our industry, for crappie fishing, because I believe that BFS enables crappie fishermen to cast more accurately, to enjoy more time out on the water, because it's going to be a lighter setup versus your larger spinning setups that are heavy, tip heavy, and they just weigh on you, because on average, anywhere from 4 to 5 ounces heavier will be a spinning combo. So spinning combos are typically heavier by 4 to 5 ounces, including the rod and the reel. So that's why I pushed on them. I said, y'all need to get on this BFS train. I know it's a train, I know it sounds like hype, but you guys have to trust me on this. So what they did is they got in contact with me. I gave them a few ideas for rods that they could replicate or try out and get an idea of what does a BFS rod have to have? What does a BFS rod need to be a premium product to actually bring something that's more valuable to the industry? So they've tried out a few rods. They tried budget options, they tried expensive options, they tried medium range options, and they came up with this. This is the Jenko Double Down. Oh yeah, by the way, the reel's right-handed. This was like my first reel. I learned after this reel I prefer left hand for BFS, blah, blah, blah. Point is, the weight range on this rod's an 80th to an 1/8. It's a great rod, moderate fast bend, and if you're somebody who's wanting to do more crappie fishing, we call them speckled perch down here, so if you hear me say speck instead of crappie, that's a mistake. I mean crappie, if you guys are curious, but specks is what we call them down here. But the point is this rod is really great for brush pile fishing, dock fishing, casting those jigs around. It's rated for up to an 1/8 and down to an 80th, and I can promise you, it can cast that range. Right now, I've got a 16th ounce chatterbait from the Bait Finesse Empire website. You can get all of this at Bait Finesse Empire, by the way. I actually got this reel from Bait Finesse Empire, rod Bait Finesse Empire, line and leader from Bait Finesse Empire. So if you guys are curious about it, go hit up the links down below. The length of this rod is the 6'6". It says ML on it, but this is not a medium light rod. This I don't know why it says ML on it, and I know the guys from Jenko are probably watching this. I don't know why it's an ML. This should be UL, not ML. This is an ultralight rod. This bend it's not whippy, but it has more of a backbone to it, and that is what I love about this rod. I actually took and had a jig on it, this Igaraba jig from Jackson Kwan, and I was hook setting like crazy with a jig. So this rod does have the backbone necessary to do a little bit of bass finesse. Now, it's not necessarily the bass finesse rod for BFS, and there's rods for that, and I agree that maybe that this isn't the exact one I was talking about. This is a great panfish BFS rod. One thing that people have been curious about is how the tip diameter is. I can't really show you the tip diameter on video, it's hard to, but essentially this rod has a little bit thicker tip diameter than most Japanese or overseas made BFS rods, but this is an American company. They did things a little differently. It's got Alps guides, which are supposed to be like top of the game level guides. I've never tried them. So far they're awesome. They're not micro guides like say the Dobyns. I honestly think that's an advantage on their part because it saves them money to have to worry about micro guides. Now, necessarily doesn't mean they're better, but Alps guides are supposed to be really great quality guides. So it's very smooth, it feels like. They're a little bit wider, which I prefer because with lighter lines, you don't want friction causing stop-ups on your lighter lures, especially an 1/80th of an ounce. You need the least amount of obstruction and stuff to stop it from flying out of your reel as possible. Oh my gosh, I'm talking too much. But the point is that this has a thicker tip, but it has more moderate bend, so it can still cast in those lower weight ranges because it has a more moderate bend. It's easier to get the rod behind the lure to cast it out further. So that's why this rod has been one of my favorite rods lately. And you guys know me, full grip. I suggested that. I said, y'all should do full grip. Not many full grip rods in the industry, and lo and behold, full grip is here. I love wing grip. This is honestly one of the most comfortable rods I've used, at least so far in the BFS industry. I literally could fish with this setup all day. It's extremely light, extremely well balanced. Oop, that wasn't very convincing, huh? But essentially the balance point is here. I just can't get it to balance because the angle I'm sitting right now. I don't want my rods to hit the fan, so yeah, that's that setup. But let's get into the next combo. This reel and rod are actually my favorite setup if I'm not doing freshwater. Actually, I would probably still use this in freshwater if I really wanted to, because I have been using it in freshwater. I used it a couple of days this past weekend. I've used it all the time. But this is the Daiwa Gekkabijin AIR TW. This is essentially this is from 2021. This is essentially the same body as the Alphas, but it's more specifically designed for saltwater applications. It's meant for night jigging, things like that. But this rod is the Huerco Micro Game 700 Travel Rod. This is a 5-piece rod, hence why I've got it in pieces right now. I'm not gonna put it together for the video because there's no point, but this rod is actually rated for 2 to 10 grams. I've got some 0.4 PE Varivas light game on here right now, with Varivas light game shock leader, but I've also got Gomexis knobs on there. It's got a drag clicker already stock in the reel, so if you guys don't want to have to install one, very loud stock drag on this reel, and I love that. I think that's great that they did that. But this rod has been great so far, and so has the reel. It's been an awesome setup. It essentially is what did the Alphas AIR have lacking for people who didn't want to do just stream fishing, or people who just didn't want to do bass finesse. This reel is probably a whole different story, at least in my opinion. You have a more PE tuned spool, so it's a little bit heavier, but it actually has these ridges on the side to stop from over spooling on both sides like the Alphas does. The Alphas does have over spooling on the sides of the reel versus this one. It does not do that. Looks great on there in my opinion. I've actually got a Jackson Gekkabijin jig on there as well. I really like the jig, it's a great jig. I've actually put some U40 cork seal on this cork of this rod, and it makes it last way longer, and I love it so far. But this rod is exactly what I was looking for saltwater light game fishing. So if you guys are wanting to get into saltwater BFS fishing, this is an amazing combo. Now it's a little pricey. This is probably the most expensive combo I own, and it's been an awesome combo so far. It's 7 foot, by the way. I don't know if I addressed that, but reel's awesome, cast amazing. It has double the bearings of the Alphas AIR, and yeah, really there's nothing bad I can say about this combo. I mean, I have a gripe with almost every single combo I've used, but I mean everything about this rod is so fine-tuned and so nice. I could break this down to 5 pieces to where it would only be about this long. So that is crazy. So say if I want to go hiking into the Everglades and go catch some backwater snook, I could do that with this combo, and that's really cool in my opinion. So that is my saltwater light game combo for BFS. It's really awesome. I'm actually gonna be doing a review on the Huerco here soon. I'm waiting for Amir to actually restock his stuff at BFS Empire. Should be soon. But if you guys want to hear more stuff on the Huerco, depending on when you watch this, you might actually have the chance to go watch my series that I'm gonna be doing on it. But the Huerco deserves a lot of attention, just like the Jenko Double Down has gotten. So I'm gonna be talking about that rod a lot. So if you're somebody who's into travel rods, which travel rods, I've never actually had a travel rod besides my fly rod before. And good Lord, do I love travel rods now. I think travel rods are awesome because, like, if you're someone like me, you don't like to bring a bunch of combos anymore. I used to bring 8 combos whenever I would go fishing, and then I would pick one or the other and take that out for the rest of the day. And good Lord, that was a problem for me. I did that way too often. So now travel combos are where it's at. I think I want to definitely get more into telescopic rod combos, things like that, just to try them out because I think they're a lot of fun. I think the next couple of rods I want to try are going to be more light game focused. I've got pretty much all the rods I want, besides maybe another panfish rod. I do want another panfish rod, but I think I want another reel before I want another rod. So I think the next investment for me in the terms of BFS is, one, to sell some more bass combos off because I'm getting tired of having bass combos, but I'm also going to invest in a nice panfish combo because I think they're great. They're fun. I think the next reel I'm going to get is the Daiwa Alphas AIR. I'm pretty sure the new one because it looks great. I was actually talking to Amir about it from BFS Empire, and I was talking to him and he suggested the old one. I like the old one. They both look great, and I'm a big Halo fan, so I like the green on them, so it's cool. But I think that in the future I'll definitely try those reels. But we have talked about all the reels I actually own for BFS. Yeah, I only own 3 BFS reels. It's kind of sad, honestly. I'm a BFS like talker, whatever you want to call it. I'm a BFS enthusiast, and I only have 3 BFS reels. I do want to 100% upgrade my arsenal and add a few more to that list. But let's talk about the rods. So you guys have always heard me talk about how many rods I have. I have way too many rods. But I just don't talk about the rods enough to explain to you that I have tons of different options. I'm not going to talk about these too in depth, but Bass Pro has a couple of budget options. This is the Microlite Glass. It's a 2-piece rod, fits in your hand, has a pistol grip. It's actually meant to go with a spin cast, I believe, so not necessarily meant for using like panfish and stuff like that. But it says it's meant for panfish on their website, but I think this would be more of a trout rod. It's 410, it's an ultralight, rated for a 16 to 3/8, 2 to 6 pound line. If you wanted my honest opinion, this should be properly rated down to 32nd. This is a 32nd to a 1/4 ounce rod, if you wanted my opinion. It's very moderate, very whippy. So if you're somebody who's into that, I call this my toy rod. Look where it's bending right now. It's bending at the handle. This is a fiberglass rod. So part of it's light, part of it's not. But if you're somebody who wants some budget rods for now to get you started in BFS, this isn't a bad option. This just wouldn't be my go-to option, is what I would tell you. These rods are $20, $25. So if you're something that you want a rod that you can throw around, beat up, and eventually break and throw in the trash, this is the rod. If you got phones like that, do that. But if you want my honest recommendation, do not buy rods from Bass Pro Shops, at least for budget BFS, because they're not going to last that long. There's other options at Bass Pro if Bass Pro is your only option, but I'm not going to tell you to go to Bass Pro Shops. But this rod, when I worked at Bass Pro Shops, I got a discount on it, so that's the reason why I bought it. We're gonna put that over there. And on the topic of Bass Pro Shops rods, we're gonna talk about that a little more. Here is a rod that I probably would recommend a little bit more than that one, for panfish especially, because this is a moderate bend, but it's not very whippy. This is more of a graphite rod. It's more sensitive, it's split grip, it's foam, has a better seat handle. But this rod is the BFS rod from Bass Pro again. It's called the Crappy Max. It's not necessarily a BFS rod. It was not identified as a BFS rod, but it's a little bit higher power than that. So it's not an ultralight, it's a light rod. It's 6 foot, rated for a 16th to a 1/4. So that's 2 to 7 grams. I don't know if I would really recommend this rod either. For its price, it's $29.99, I want to say right now. I don't know if that's right or not, but this rod is not bad. I just have it as a spare rod to try out, and honestly, I was going to eventually put a review out on it, but to be honest, I don't know if I want to put out a review on it and tell you guys to go buy this rod, but I would tell you to save your money, go buy something from BFS Empire instead. Not because it makes me any money, not because it makes him any money, but for the fact of the matter is, you can get better quality for just a little bit more. If you double the price of this rod, you're getting like the Tsurinoya legend, and you're enjoying Bass BFS way better, in my opinion. So if you want my honest opinion, don't get this rod. It's not really something that I would recommend for someone who's just starting BFS, because if you get this rod and get the Zephyr, you're not going to have a clue what BFS actually is, because you're going to think that spinning is still better. And I don't want you to think that, because it's not. Fact of the matter is, you can go and save your money up and get something better. Get a Dark Wolf Ultra, get some Tsurinoya rod, like, I don't know, the Pro Flex or something, and you're going to enjoy BFS a lot more. That's just the same thing with bass fishing. If you spend the money and get something a little bit better, you're going to enjoy it a lot more. So that's what I recommend. With that said, we're going to cover kind of a budget rod that's available at BFS Empire. I don't know if it's budget necessarily, but I would say it's close to budget. This is the Kastking Zephyr Rod. So as much as I said I don't really like the Zephyr Reel, this is a Zephyr Rod. It bends like crazy. I actually picked this up from my buddy on Instagram, HeavenlyBun69. He actually sold me this rod. I bought it a couple months ago. It is a 1 to 8 gram rod. It's an ultralight. I believe this is 5 foot. It's a 1.5 meters. I put some cork seal on here as well. It's a great little rod for casting around jigs. I think that you could probably get a rod that can cast a little bit lighter than this with a Kuying electric shot teton, but this is not a bad rod. I don't know if this is a rod I would necessarily pair with the Zephyr, because this rod feels like higher quality than the Zephyr itself. So this rod's not bad if you want to do something like trout fishing. So say if this rod is your only option and you wanted to pick this up for trout fishing, get it. It's great. I don't think it's the worst. It's a 2-piece as well. It is a 2-piece. I'm trying to break it down for you, but that is a 2-piece as well. It's not bad at all. It's sensitive, got super small guides, good wrapping on the guides too. I'm trying to put it back together and it's not going very well. This rod actually casts beetle spins really well. I've casted a bunch of beetle spins on this and I really enjoyed it, but I honestly prefer the Jenko rod a little bit more than this, because I feel like this rod just doesn't load up light lures very well. Like a gram, it says it casts to a gram. I've tried and it really does not cast as well as the Jenko rod in my opinion. I am not paid by anyone. Let me remind you, I am not paid by anyone. Anything I say is something I actually do believe. So this rod I do not recommend over the Jenko. It does not cast as light as the Jenko, even though this was not made in America and all that. But yeah, so not a bad rod if you're wanting to get something to begin, but I'm still going to recommend the Jenko, even though it's still double the price of this rod. I think it's double the price. I don't remember the prices right now. That's not my worry. I'm just showing you guys what I got, you know. So the next rods I'm gonna talk about are Kuying brand rods. There's actually 2 of the same series. I bought both of these rods to try out. Well, actually, this one I've been trying out for BFS Empire. I bought both these rods to try out for inshore fishing. I haven't used these in a while just because I've been preferring other rods. I lost a snook on this rod, so I've been kind of having a bad juju with it. But this is the Kuying Superlite. We actually just had these restocked at BFS Empire, so if you guys want to go pick one up, you go ahead and do that. But this is an extremely light Ajing rod. So if you guys don't know what Ajing is, it's horse mackerel. So it's super tiny saltwater species. So if you're somebody who's jigging off piers, things like that, for tiny species, I'm talking like literally is the max length is this handle. I've caught big redfish and trout on this, but I still don't think you should be using it for that. The reason why is this is a extra fast rod, I would describe it as. So essentially how I was talking about how that rod earlier, the Dobyns, is a solid tip. This is also a solid tip rod that I have already broken. And it wasn't broken because of a fish, but it was actually broken because the line got wrapped around the tip. That is the action of this rod. That's extra fast. That's like extra fast. But this rod is meant to be extremely sensitive. I had to essentially put a new eye on. It's not small enough in my opinion, but it's good enough for now, and that'll I just have to do. But this rod went from 7.6 to about 7.5 now. But this rod is great if you're wanting to do light game inshore. I honestly really love this rod. So if you guys really wanted to pick this up, if you guys are wanting to get saltwater BFS light game, there's 3 rods I'm going to recommend. The Dobyns 701, the Huerco 700 micro game, and this Kuying Superlite Ajing. It's a great rod if you're targeting smaller species. The reason why I don't recommend it for larger species is because the extra fast solid tip, it's a little bit more prone to breakage. That doesn't make it bad. That really doesn't make it bad. If you're careful, it won't be a problem. I haven't broke it on a fish. I broke it out of my own error. So believe me when I tell you, I recommend this rod. This is a great rod. I love it. But I have another rod from that series. This is the Kuying Superlite Ajing as well, but it's an 8'6". The last rod was a 7.6. This is the 8'6" model. I actually broke this the first time I used it. So while that's a great rod, I did break it. It's rated a little high. Oh yeah, last rod was rated for, I didn't tell you what the 7.6 was rated for. The 7.6 is rated for 0.6 to 10 grams. So say if you want to use a rod for like smaller fishing, heck, you could use that as a crappie rod if you really wanted to, just like the Jenko. But the whole point is that rod's really light casting, but this rod is actually rated for 0.8 to 15 grams. So say if you're wanting to use a little bit heavier lures and not a solid tip rod, this is the rod that's the step up from this. Amir doesn't sell this rod or stock it in his shop yet. The reason why is because he's having trouble figuring out how to ship it. That's okay though, but I still recommend this rod if you're somebody who wants to beach fish. So I actually wanted to set this rod up to use on the beach to do some casting for pompano. I wanted to do some casting off piers for small species. I wanted to get this rod just to have a little bit more extra leverage against fish. So yeah, point is, great rod. It just broke on a hardtail blue runner down there. I guess it has something to do with the, I don't know what to call this. I guess the ferrule. I guess this is a ferrule, but it broke somewhere along here to where it just snapped. I guess maybe from the angle it was, that this was maybe too sharp. Maybe it was damage in shipping. I tried to claim warranty from Kuying, and they essentially said, yeah, buddy, good luck trying to get that warranty. And they said, yeah, we don't believe you actually broke that fighting a fish, and plus it was outside of the return date. So unfortunately for them, they will no longer probably get my business. I'm not a big Kuying fan now because of that customer service encounter. So if you guys have ever bought anything from AliExpress, I do not recommend it if you're going to try to buy from Kuying. Do not buy any Kuying rods from AliExpress. If you're going to buy Kuying rods, buy them from Finesse Empire, and he can probably help you out a little bit better than Kuying themselves can, because Kuying did not give me good customer service. So that sucked. I will tell you that much about it. But we were on the last rod, so let me hurry up and get this done for you guys. But this is the Halo KS2 Elite. Now this is a little bit heavier of a rod. This is probably the heaviest BFS rod I own. It's not necessarily a BFS rod defined. I am actually partnered with American Baitworks, but this is a rod that I believe could be used for BFS. It's a 610 medium fast action, and it's rated for a 16th of a half ounce. A medium action at 16th of an ounce, that's a little light. So I was like, okay, I have to test this rod. So I got this rod. Originally I paired it with the Corrado BFS, and I used it for Ned rigs. Good Lord, if you want a good rod that's great for weightless flukes, Ned rigs, shaky heads and drop shots, this rod did great. If you're wanting to do some BFS topwater, this is actually a Academy topwater. It's a prop bait. If you want a rod that does that, it does that just as great too. So if you're looking at American-made rods, this is another American-made rod. It's at 180. You can't buy it at Finesse Empire, but you can buy it elsewhere. So I do recommend this rod if you're looking to consider it. This is a Bass BFS rod for sure. It has a lot more backbone, and it's very fast action rod. So if you're wanting a rod that does jerk baits, tiny frogs, things like that, you're wanting to rock with like max 15-pound braid, I would only recommend that max. Like that's like really pushing it too. So I don't really necessarily recommend doing that. But it's a great rod if you're wanting to get into Bass BFS, light game BFS, stuff like that. This is a great rod. I'm still going to urge you to go more in the direction of the other rods I talked about, but this rod is not bad at all if you're a Halo guy, if you're a big fan of Halo. Halo, pretty great brand to work with. I've loved having a couple of their rods so far. The KS2 Elites have really been some of my favorite bass rods as of lately. So, but that is the last rod I have to talk about in terms of BFS. So that is all my rods, all my reels. I need more reels. You guys probably can't even tell, but I only have 3 BFS reels and like 9 BFS rods. So I need to up my game as far as reels go. I think the next reel I'm gonna be trying out is the Kastking Kestrel. The Kestrel I'm really excited for because it's the lightest BFS reel ever. Like, I think it's the lightest bait caster ever actually too. But that reel I'm really excited for to try out for spec fishing, light game, things like that. Now, what rod am I gonna pair that with? I don't know. I think I might pair that with my Kuying Superlite for a little bit, just to see how it performs with that. I think it'll be very comfortable. Besides that, I'm gonna try a bunch of different options, try a bunch of different rods and see how they perform. It's raining. Okay, I gotta hurry up and finish this video up. I wanna say thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about any combos that I showed today's video, I will leave links to everything that I can down below. I'm not gonna leave links to Bass Pro Rods because who needs a link to Bass Pro shops? Like, you know how to get there. I'm gonna leave links to most of the stuff down in the description down below. If you click on those links, most of the time it will support me, whether it be through affiliate funds or just overall support from the brands who support me. So essentially, if you click those links, the brands see that they want to help me down the road, and it helps me in situations like I've had lately where I don't have a job. Point is, I want to say I appreciate all that you guys do. We're cranking dailies. I'm going to try to crank dailies for as long as I can. So I really appreciate all your guys' love and support. And I really hope that you guys can keep supporting me, heading forward into the new part of my life out of college and stuff like that. I hope you guys are excited for the videos I'm pumping out. I'm excited myself. So I'm gonna hurry up and edit this video, get it out by this night for you, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And remember, fish dirty.